Hello, I'm Rachel and welcome to my NaNoWriMo 2022 vlog. It is now officially National Novel Writing Month. I am filming this shortly after midnight between Halloween and, well, November. We are now in November, and being in November means we have 30 days left. The clock has started to write 50,000 words before the clock stops. Yes, 50,000 words, 30 days starting now, and I will be taking you along with me on this journey as I have in years past. Just like in years past, it seems daunting and I have no idea how I'm going to get through this, but we will get through it together, and I'll show you snippets of my time along the way. So I hope you enjoy it or are inspired if you are also on the nano journey. I hope you're doing very well. And I guess I should start as is the custom of the last few years, given the NaNoWriMo website and how they've set things up, where you can announce your projects on the site, and there's different statuses, I guess it is. And I'm going to go ahead right now, since it's now November, and change my status from prepping to drafting, because that's the journey I'm now undertaking, and I hope you stay with me for the ride. Feels like I'm having a very slow start to vlogging this year, but I am back and I have something fun to share. I have the NaNoWriMo donation goodies in this here container. As always, there's a bookmark with this year's design, the very nice flowery design. And like on the back, you know, now they're doing these I guess goal tracker, it's right there, that's what they call it, and you have these tiny little boxes where I guess you can keep track of your word count. Feels like it'd be very difficult to write in there, but whatever works, I suppose. And then the message on the bookmark is very short these days, and all it says is, "Thank you so much, writer. Your creative work is intertwined with our community's imagination, and we're so grateful to be connected with you. Track the creative goals that feel good to you below, whether it's a word count goal or just feeding my inspiration." And then this is the official sticker of the day, and I'm so excited because I have a NaNoWriMo sticker-sized hole, one more left on my laptop that I can put this on, so huzzah. So I just finished Rebel Daughter by Lori Benov-Kaufman, meaning I'm finally finishing up my October reading, huzzah. And what a thing really to be reading right now with a setting in 1st century CE Jerusalem, because my fantasy novel is in some part based off of 1st century CE Jerusalem. I guess I've been being vague and thinking like of quote-unquote biblical Jerusalem being an inspiration, but I think it's a lot easier to really hone in on this specific time. So of course that's put me in a tailspin again about the whole idea of, you know, do I have to upend my novel again to, you know, and repopulate it with everything that's in this book, which is kind of ridiculous in a way, because actually, even though the 1st century-ness is, you know, somewhat a similarity, there's other things about my book and this book that are different. For example, in this book, it's about the Roman occupation of Jerusalem, and then ultimately about the destruction of Jerusalem and the start of the Second Diaspora. Although surprisingly to me, I think a lot more of this story took place in Jerusalem before the end. And anyway, we're following this character Esther, who was the daughter of a temple priest. And in real life, there was a inscription on a gravestone in Italy of a young woman who was taken as a hostage out of the siege of Jerusalem and was then freed, because of course she was made a slave after the Romans won. So from this, the author did 10 years of research and created this story about the character. But anyway, so yeah, there are some similarities. I certainly feel like I can take a lot of notes perhaps on really background stuff of how people lived their lives to flesh out the background of my scenes, so that it isn't just people talking in a white room. That wouldn't be good. But anyway, but I can't keep upending my novel writing every time something niggles at me about more world building or whatever, or even, I guess, character stuff in this novel. Although technically speaking, I think the character stuff was the most bombastic in this novel. I really appreciate, the research she put into this, the 10 years of research. I felt like the world building was quite fascinating. Maybe the characters themselves less so. So that's something to consider as well, because I do think, the characters make the novel ultimately, even if you want to have a lush world behind them. So anyway, all of this to say, I have finished this book. I largely liked it, and I do not want to upend my own writing because there's some good stuff to take out of this book. So, in fact, tomorrow, Nano headquarters is going to do their first virtual write-in of the season, and I can take that time, perhaps, to go ahead and tackle the rewrite of a scene that I want to do, and, stick with my own story and not upend it with, all the everything that's in this book. So that's my goal. And also I've decided to prop this book next to a tzedakah box, a charity box with what I'm sure is supposed to be an image of Jerusalem on it.
And before we start next, I did want to ask y'all a question. I want to ask, how do y'all deal with your inner editor during NaNoWriMo? If you don't know what your inner editor is, that's basically just the voice telling you, like, while you're writing, that, oh, I gotta, stop, and, as y'all were saying, I gotta stop research this, or, this scene wasn't good, I want you to go back and fix it. I think we all relate to that.
Yeah. So for me, it's my partner has this thing that they say when something is happening, you're like, I don't want this, and they're like, impermanence is on your side. And I feel like I've tried to get that into my first draft too. Like, this will all change in later revisions. Impermanence is on my side.
I know for me, if I'm doing stuff on the Word doc, I just leave comments to myself hey, this is not that, I didn't really like this part, let's change this later and just move on. Because it's still I put down how I feel about it, but I can just move on from it. I also think writing, handwriting, if you can do handwriting, I know it can be demanding, but that's why I do tend to writing it down physically, because, well, I'm not gonna go back and edit something I wrote it in pen. I'll just waste a lot of paper and I'll get sad.
I like how many people are just being straight up rude to their inner editors. No, you can't sit with us.
Yeah, all of y'all are saying Nancy put, I tell her to suck it up, buttercup, now hush up.
Tamara says, revision is where the real writing happens anyway, so don't sweat the inner editor, they're just looking for attention. I love that.
Quartz and Onyx says, to my inner editor, let's procrastinate on editing, reverse psychology, procrastination.
I've never tried that one before. I'll have to give that one a shot.
So, confession time. I can tell you from this far away, I suppose. I did not, in fact, write my fantasy novel while listening to that write-in or partaking in that write-in. in all honesty, the nano write-ins aren't really conducive for me, and the fantasy project or fiction writing in general, because the sessions are so short. I need more time to get into fiction writing, so I usually use those write-in sessions like I did that one for some of my easier sort of dashed off rebel writing. So anyway, there's that, but since filming that clip in this one, I have worked on the fantasy project, and I pulled up the scene that I was talking about in an earlier clip. It's going okay, actually. I think there was more there than I feared. One of the major things I realized is that I'm writing a fantasy novel where a major premise, the major premise, is that my main character is a prophetess who has a relationship with a goddess, which comes up in this book. The relationship starts, and that I actually needed to put something in the book, especially by halfway, of the goddess actually communicating with her. And I've been slowly trying to put things in, and this scene I was working on was really trying to beef that up a bit and really give this character a bit of a big vision of what the goddess wanted her to see. Although it isn't necessarily all that conducive, I think I've said that before, to nano writing, because I want to get deep into, I guess, feelings and details, and that's not easy writing when you're trying to get to 50,000 words, and in a large part I'm still trying to sort of suss out exactly what's going on. And so a lot of my writing is so rudimentary and so like surface level, just this is what we should be thinking about, and this is what we should be talking about, and in later drafts I want to be one of those fantasy writers that's can express a lot more of that with like the emotional rather than hitting someone over the head with it. I mean, the emotional as in setting the scene through physicality and through more nuanced character work. But anyway, so that's where I am now, and so I guess I'm getting on the right track here. But now I'm going to go and pivot back to some headquarters geekery. It seems like they're going to be doing these webcasts with authors all weekend in honor of their Double Up Donation Day. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be sprint related. It's more just going to be interviews with authors, although I guess I'll see.
NaNoWriMo is about so much about like the goal, deadline, the creative midwife of that, the kind of pushing yourself further to go kind of beyond yourself and what you think you're capable of. But I also, we hear often many stories about how the writing experience also boosts people's confidence, helps them be part of a community. You know, there are a lot of nourishing parts about it. And so I was wondering if you could talk about like why is writing healing, or how has it been healing for you?
So even as a little kid, I just was drawn to putting down my feelings, using imagery. It just felt good. It made me feel better. And my whole life that it was that way. At a certain point, I read a book called The Midnight Disease by A.W. Flaherty, which is a wonderful nonfiction book. It's about hypergraphia. The author suffered a tragedy and couldn't stop writing after it happened. She covered surfaces nonstop, and later she is a neurologist. She turned that into this book, and she studied this way that the brain actually responds to expression. In fact, Holocaust survivors reported healing just by telling the story, right? Which makes sense to any of us who write, I think. So I really realized there was a connection between that for me. And most of the books that I love are about a character going through some kind of trauma to some kind of healing. And the author is perhaps reflecting their own journey that way, or the journey of their ancestors. Books like Beloved by Toni Morrison, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, House of Spirits by Isabel Allende, Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich, some of my favorite books that really are about that, I think. So it all just kind of came together in The Thorn Necklace as part of that theme, but it's been that theme in my entire life, really.
That's interesting. While you were speaking, I kept thinking about the Maya Angelou quote, which I think goes, "There's no greater anguish than a story untold."
Oh, that's perfect, yes.
Good morning. it is the weekend, which technically means I have a lot more time available to me for writing, which is exciting. Hopefully I can make good use of it. In fact, this afternoon I am going to the writing salon I belong to, the DC Writer Salon. There are several sessions that we have per week, although I tend to go to the two on Saturday afternoon and Monday evening. And I'm hoping to work on my fantasy project there, getting on to the next chapter. So very excited to officially start nanoing there. Another thing I want to do or should do today is maybe draft a script and film my Victober video for the Victober reading I did last month, Victorian novels that I've read, because I'd like to get all of that stuff up before I officially, start uploading Nano stuff, and we're reaching the end of the week here. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff in the pipeline for today, and let's see how I do.
Questions like, I heard you introduced at an event, I don't know, a month or so ago, and the person who introduced you said that she was so inspired by you because you were a yes person, that you were open to the possibilities of the world. And I was just curious about that because I've experienced you as a yes person, and NaNoWriMo is such a yes event, because people have to say yes to themselves as people, as creators, as writers. And then once they say yes to their novel, they have to say yes every day to show up to keep writing that novel. Yes has to become part of the fabric of their creativity. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit. Do you see yourself as a yes person, and how does that inform your writing?
I mean, absolutely. I say yes to you, Grant, to be here. Like, I say yes to stuff a lot of times without even knowing exactly what I'm saying yes to. Because I feel like there's always something cool about mystery and discovering what's on the other side of that door that you're opening. Sometimes it doesn't work out, okay? There have been times where I've said yes to stuff that I shouldn't have said yes to. And so I try to balance it with a little bit of thought, some serious consideration, but generally and genuinely, if I feel good about something, if my gut feels something, I will say yes to it. And, when I think about my writing career, I had written 13 books, and I had about 14 different jobs because I never, was able to make a living from being a writer. And so for that 14th book, this woman came up to me. She worked for a publishing company in New York City, and she was like, Kwame, I really want you to write a book about two boys who play basketball. And I want you to write the story in poems. And I know you have a voice and you can do it. And I had never even thought about A, writing a book for kids, and B, writing a novel in verse. But I looked at her and I said, yes, I'll do it. And she said, I'll publish it. So it felt really good to say yes to that, and I tackled that project And over the course of 5 years, Grant, and 19 rejections, I'm like, why did I say yes to this? It's just, it's never gonna work. And of course, after all of those no's, I got one yes. And that's all you need. You only need one yes.
That's
And
true.
I got that one yes. And that book, you know, became the book that changed my life in so many ways and allowed me to be a writer full time and to meet students around the world, from Singapore to Seattle. So all of those no's weighed heavy, and it was disappointing, and I cried and I was sad. But that one yes propelled me forward into the next set of no's. So I was able to sort of persevere through the next set of no's because I knew that I had gotten a yes previously. So a yes was eventually going to come.